Good morning, everyone. So I'd like to start off with a little story about a middle-aged woman who has a heart attack and is taken to the hospital. While on the operating table, she has a near-death experience. During this experience, she sees God and asks him, "Is this it?" God says, "No," and explains that she has another 30 years to live. Upon her recovery, she decides to just stay in the hospital a little longer and have a facelift, liposuction, tummy tuck, and so on. She even has someone come in and change her hair color. She figures she's got another 30 years. She might as well make the most of it. So the day she's finished, she walks out of the hospital after her very last operation and is immediately killed by an ambulance speeding by. She arrives in front of God and complains, "I thought you said I had another 30 years. God said, "I didn't recognize you." Okay, so any of us thinking about changing ourselves dramatically might think twice. Okay, so I am both humbled and honored to be able to be on this platform this morning. So preparing this lesson and our whole day this morning is all about loving beyond boundaries. It caused me to look deeper and reflect and try and make more sense out of the world that we're currently living in. I'd like to start with a quote and then share some of my musings and thoughts. I hope they'll be helpful to you. This is a quote by Andrian Marie Brown. She says, "When we are engaged in acts of love, we humans are at our best and most resilient. The love and romance that makes us want to be better people, the love of children that makes us change our whole lives to meet their needs, the love of family that makes us drop everything to care for them, and the love of community that makes us work tirelessly with broken hearts." Jesus called us to love beyond condition or tribe, to see every person as a divine expression of God. When we expand our circle of compassion, we find deeper freedom in the oneness of all life. A few years ago, actually a couple decades ago, I was at a training to learn a process to help leaders identify their top 5 values. At the end of the exercise, I discovered that my number 1 value was love. I remember thinking to myself, well, that's nice, but I didn't have any real sense about what it actually meant to me. Since then, I've been deliberately and consciously paying attention to experiences of love. My first big real love experience came more than 25 years ago when I signed up for a year-long leadership program through the Coaches Training Institute. I walked into a room of 16 strangers, and over the course of the year-long program, we cried together, we laughed, we loved, and we healed each other. After the program officially ended, we had built a bond of love that we were not willing to let go of. We decided we would do our own retreat the following year. This year, in 2026, we will be doing our 26th yearly retreat. As far as I know, over the years, we are the only group that stayed together after the official program. Our group was named the Cocopellis. We are a legend among other leadership groups at the Coaches Training Institute. If I meet someone and I say, "I'm a Cocopelli," they're like, "You're a Cocopelli?" We now are 10 people, 5 men, 5 women. The youngest is in her early 60s, and the oldest in his late 80s. We've loved each other through job transitions, health challenges, divorces, marriages, death of parents, plus the death of 2 of our original members. the birth of grandchildren, mental illness, and more. I know without a doubt I could call any one of them in the middle of the night and they would pick up. That is love, and I continue to drink in every minute of it. It is not lost on me how rare and precious our group is. My first experience with Unity Minneapolis was an experience of love too. I attended my first class some dozen years ago and cried my way pretty much through the whole thing. At that time, I was a stressed out mom who was a single parent to 13 and 16-year-old teenagers with a former husband who was constantly sowing chaos into our routines and lives. I didn't recognize it at the time, but the energy in that class was so loving and compassionate that I just let down all my defenses and the pretenses that I actually had things together. The tears flowed, and I felt deeply loved for who I was in that moment. My stress, my pain, my confusion, and despair were all welcomed by a circle of strangers who were willing to love without reservation. One of my favorite phrases that Reverend Pat shared with us last Sunday is what Charles Fillmore, one of our Unity founders, says about love. Charles Fillmore says, "Love is power." I can't say I've thought very much about love being power until this week as I was working on this lesson. Reflecting back on my Kokopelli experience and my Unity Minneapolis experience, I realized that being included and welcomed by total strangers with love in their hearts is more powerful than almost anything else I can think of. When I look at Minneapolis and other areas of our dear state of Minnesota, I am so incredibly proud. I deeply understand the power of love we are expressing to our neighbors in this time of need. Love is power shows up in boxes of food carried to the homes of those who are too afraid of coming out, in the adults wearing bright-colored vests and escorting children to the front doors of their schools, of neighbors using their whistles and car horns to notify those who are vulnerable on their own streets, showing up to march in downtown Minneapolis with thousands in below-zero weather to make their voices heard, attending the singing resistance group with less than 24 hours notice and joining more than 1,200 voices in song, in grieving, and in taking action. One of the harder questions I asked myself when I was putting this lesson together was, well, what about ICE and others who support what is going on in our dear Minnesota cities and towns and across our country? Jesus called us to love beyond condition or tribe, to see every person as a divine expression of God. How do we love those causing harm and those we disagree with beyond condition or tribe? How do we see every person as a divine expression of love? Those are big questions to ponder and without easy answers. One of the ways I was able to find compassion was to wonder, well, what made me say yes to the year-long leadership retreat? What made me say yes to my first class at Unity? I don't know. I don't know what made me say yes. What I do know is that those experiences are fundamental to my experiential understanding of what love is power actually means. Later in the week, this goes on when you're preparing a lesson. Later in the week, I asked myself, what makes someone say yes to brandishing a gun in the face of their fellow humans, of engaging in cruelty, in separating children from their parents, of detaining people and sending them to detention centers that are more than subpar standards for any human being? I don't have answers to those questions either, but I would say there's a good chance that the men and women working for ICE and Border Patrol don't truly know how powerful love is. If they did, I imagine it would be easier for them to put down their guns and take off their masks. Then I got to thinking about the words Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." What does it look like to see those we don't agree with as divine humans and look beyond their behavior to the light that is within all of us? When I started to ask what would make someone be so cruel to their fellow humans, it wasn't hard to imagine someone who didn't have the good fortune I did to find a group of humans who would love them unconditionally. Possibly someone who had been bullied in school with no one to turn to. Or someone who has been laid off multiple times and turned down for jobs they really wanted. Or someone who got so frustrated they hit their spouse and now have an order for protection against them. A $50,000 sign-in bonus could look like a turn of good luck. Being given a gun could provide a feeling of power and belonging to a group that takes their rage out on others. Could arresting people to be monetarily rewarded make one feel successful, perhaps for the first time in their lives, for achieving a quota? Those who torment are more than likely living in fear. They either don't know love or they have given up on love's power. As children, we know love and we give it freely. But if we grow up in an environment that doesn't reflect and demonstrate that love, fear can set in. And all those who live in fear need our compassion and love. When we know better, we do better. And fear can set in quickly if we are already stressed or if someone we love is being threatened. None of us is immune from the speed or the intensity that fear can hit us with. I had an interesting fear experience last week. I was on 494 on my way to lunch in Edina. I got totally trapped in stop-and-go traffic for almost 45 minutes on the same mile of freeway. It was mostly stopped in all three lanes, and the next two exits were closed due to the construction. I kept looking ahead going, 1 more mile I can get off, closed. 1 more mile, closed. I hate being trapped in traffic. Then my daughter called to say that one of the cooks at the restaurant where she works had been snatched by ICE the night before while taking out the trash. This was her worst fear, and she was terrified. She asked if I would take her to work for her next shift and also walk her into the building. Well, that put me over the top. I'm stuck in traffic, which is one of my worst nightmares, and I just found out my daughter's worst nightmare had happened. I was shocked at how rage immediately surfaced and how many swear words I could string together over and over again with one of the loudest voices I've used in ages. As my throat got too sore to shout, I stopped and asked myself, what am I doing? I went from a relatively peaceful and pleasant morning to a stressed and tense body with my mind swirling with worst-case scenarios. And it happened in a heartbeat. I didn't like how I felt and then reminded myself how hard I've worked over the past 15 years to consistently live from a place of love and peace. And then I had to ask myself, do I really want to give my cherished peace of mind over to ICE and the freeway, neither of which I have any control over? And my resounding answer was no, absolutely not. I had the presence of mind to turn on some classical music, which is always calming for me, and then take some deep, deep breaths to help my mind and body settle down. Later, I got to thinking how I was overwhelmed with rage in a split second when one of my worst nightmares and the safety of my daughter collided in the exact same moment. I have training from my work as an executive coach and tools from our Unity teachings to help me when I get triggered. What do people do who don't have access to resources or are not surrounded by people who love them? They must be pretty vulnerable to the stresses of these times we are currently living in. Shortly after thinking that thought, my compassion for those others set in. As Reverend Pat reminds us, for those who are inflicting harm, we love them as divine beings, but we don't condone their behavior. That's loving them as fellow humans while setting boundaries around their behavior. Loving beyond boundaries means loving others regardless of the outward behaviors that they demonstrate. It's not easy, and we are called to do it anyway. As a coach, I'm known for sharing practical tools, especially during challenging times. I have two that I'd like to leave with you today. I carry my coach's hat with me all the time. Because loving beyond boundaries is hard for most of us right now, and we will be called to continue loving those we deeply disagree with, more than likely for a long while to come. Real change often takes real commitment, a lot of action, and as much love as we can muster. As Reverend Pat reminds us, when we are getting ready to take action, take a moment to check your emotional mindset. If you're angry, pause and use your tools to shift back into loving energy. As the Beatles always told us, love is the answer. We are in a transformational time that will take all of us loving deeply, taking action with a loving heart as much as we possibly can. We will be challenged to remember that love is more powerful than fear. And I firmly believe and constantly remind myself, love always wins. While we're together this morning, as I start to wrap up, I'd like to do a little bit of practice, and I'd like to start with the loving kindness meditation. So if you take a look in your order of service, this little piece of paper is in there, and I asked Connie to put it in so that hopefully you'll take this home with you, put it on your refrigerator where it can be there to remind you as a handy-dandy tool, or keep it near your meditation space. But what I'd like us to do is just go through this together, and so that, and when we start, kind of notice, what are you feeling? Where are you at? And then as we work our way through it, I'll give you a moment or so to just notice at the end how you might feel differently. So what I'd like you to do is just get yourself centered and your feet firmly planted on the floor. Maybe take a deep breath or two. And there's, 7 different steps in here, I believe. So I'll walk us through and we can read through this together. So let's start with the self-compassion. And we're going to bring our awareness to our own heart and usually silently repeat, but we'll do it out loud today. So may I be safe. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live with ease and peace. Now we're going to do the same thing, but this time we're going to hold a loved one in our mind. Someone that you care deeply about. And this time we'll say, may you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. Now I'd like you to think of a neutral person. Bring to mind someone that you see regularly, but not have strong feelings for. Maybe it's your favorite barista, a neighbor, a coworker. So hold them in mind. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. Now we're going to get a little challenging. So think of a difficult person or group of people. Bring to mind someone who you have a moderate amount of tension or more. Anyone that you feel difficulty towards. And we will offer them these wishes. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. And now we're going to expand a little bit more to include everyone in our community, our city, our country, even the entire world. May all beings be safe. May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be free from suffering. And now bring your focus back to your body and just notice. And there's some reflection questions on the back, and there are some additional phrases that you can experiment throughout the week. But to me, this is probably one of the most powerful tools we have for really helping us expand our love beyond boundaries. So I hope you will take this with you and put it somewhere where you will see it on a regular basis. And then I have one more thing I'd like to share with you, and this is a song. Actually, it's a musical love prayer. Music is so powerful during these times. This is one of my very favorites because my dear sweet Ollie sent me this song shortly after we started our relationship, and I was doing my first international work trip to Africa. So I was traveling all by myself, and I just kept this song near because it helped to keep me company while I was navigating jet lag and airports that I had never been to before. So the song is a beautiful song sung by a woman from Duluth, actually. It's about the sun shining, love, and light. So in this moment, nothing to do other than just let the song wash over you with warmth and love, and then I'll have a little assignment at the end.
May the long time sun shine upon you, all love surround you, and the pure, pure light that's within you guide your way home. May the long time sun shine upon you, all love surround you, and the pure, pure light that's within you guide your way home. May the long time sun shine upon you, all love surround you, and the pure light that's within you guide your way home. May the long time sun shine upon you, all love surround you, and the pure light that's within you guide your way home. May the long time sun shine upon you, all love surround you, and the pure light that's within you guide your way home.
And then just notice how it feels right now. I wish you could be up here with me to see the look on your faces, just beautiful throughout the entire sanctuary. So, your assignment this week, if you choose to accept it, is to notice when anger or frustration arise within you and have a tool ready or a step that you can take to bring you back to love. And anger is usually a signal that something is not right. So start with that anger and ask yourself, what's not right? And then how can you shift yourself into a state of love? Because when we can take action from a state of love, it has a much bigger impact than if we try to do it from a state of anger, which can sometimes make a bigger mess. So I'd like to leave you with the thought that if love is power, then the more of us who stay in the energy of love, the more power we have to make the world a better place for everyone. Thank you.